Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen and enjoy my stories every day. I had just noticed a fresh dent on my car, the sort of imperfection that gnaws at you. It was a Sunday morning, the kind where the sun hints at a lazy, uneventful day. My plan had been nothing more elaborate than a cup of coffee in the newspaper, but that dent changed everything. Pulling up the video footage from the camera by the entrance, I expected to see a stray shopping cart or maybe a careless bicyclist. Instead, the screen flickered to a scene that unraveled the fabric of my mundane morning into something far more sinister. As I watched, a silver sedan screeched awkwardly close to my car. The impact wasn't loud, but it was enough. The driver's door opened, and an elderly man stepped out. His movements were shaky as he inspected the damage with a furrowed brow. Just as I was about to dismiss it as an unfortunate accident, she appeared. My wife, Mara, came out through the passenger side, her presence on the screen a sharp jolt to my system. But it wasn't just her unexpected appearance that stung, it was what followed. She walked around the car, her steps hesitant yet purposeful. When she reached the old man, there was no mistaking the intimacy of their greeting. Her hand found his, their fingers intertwining with a familiarity that twisted my gut. And then, the kiss. It wasn't a peck, it was deep, filled with a passion that she hadn't shown me in months. I sat there, frozen, as the two of them looked around nervously before heading into our house, my house, leaving me in a turmoil of betrayal and disbelief. The digital clock on the camera's feed mocked me with its steady tick, a reminder that time moves relentlessly forward, even if I felt stalled in that moment of shock. Hours must have passed as I sat there, replaying the footage until the images were burned into my retina. The truth was undeniable. Mara's infidelity wasn't just a suspicion anymore, it was a vivid, painful reality. Revenge, a concept I'd only ever entertained in abstract, suddenly took on a sharp, compelling focus. I knew then that forgiveness was off the table. This betrayal demanded retribution, a way to channel the raw ache of deception into something tangible. The rest of the day passed in a haze. I ignored Mara's usual Sunday evening chatter about grocery deals and neighborhood gossip. She didn't notice the storm brewing behind my calm facade. She didn't know that I had seen her, that I knew. As she went to bed, murmuring a distracted "good night," I sat in the dark living room, planning. The revenge would be meticulous, devastating. It had to match the scale of my hurt. The first step was simple: secure evidence. I downloaded the video, backing it up in several places. Then, I reached out to an old friend who had turned into a savvy divorce lawyer. By the time I went to bed, the initial pieces of my plan were set in motion. Mara's destiny, once intertwined with mine, was about to be irrevocably altered. And as I finally drifted off to a restless sleep, a part of me couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction at the thought of the coming storm. We were beyond reconciliation now, beyond the love that had once bound us. The path ahead was one of separation and bitter retribution, and I was ready to walk it. Monday morning dawned with the sort of clarity that only the freshly betrayed can feel. My usual routine felt alien as I prepared for the day with a single-minded focus. Today wasn't about going through the motions, it was about setting my plan into motion. I called in sick at work, a rare act that punctuated the severity of my state. With Mara off to her job at the library, the house was silent, echoing with the ghosts of yesterday's revelations. The first order of business was confrontation. Not with Mara, no, that would come later, when all my pieces were in place. Today, I needed to confront the man who dared intrude into my life. His face, old yet unfamiliar, had been etched into my mind. I knew him, I'd seen him around town, a supposed pillar of the community. Dr. Harold Jensen, a retired physician, well-liked and, apparently, more entangled with my wife than I could have imagined. I drove to his house, the anger in my veins a palpable force steering the wheel. As I pulled up to his well-manicured lawn, the sight of his car, the one from the footage, in the driveway fueled my resolve. I rang the doorbell, my heart hammering not from fear but from a storm of rage and hurt. Dr. Jensen answered the door, his expression one of mild surprise that shifted quickly to discomfort as he recognized me. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice steady but his eyes wary. "Actually, you can," I said, stepping into his threshold, pushing the door wider as he instinctively stepped back. "You can start by explaining what you were doing with my wife in your car yesterday." His face paled, confirming his guilt before his words could. "Look, it's not what you think." "Don't," I cut him off sharply. "I saw the video. Don't insult me further." A moment of tense silence passed before he sighed, a defeated droop settling in his shoulders. "I suppose you deserve an explanation. Let's sit down." I followed him into his living room, a space that felt too cozy, too normal for a conversation laced with betrayal. He offered me a seat but I remained standing, my stance unyielding. "It started months ago," he began, his voice low. "I met Mara at a community event. We got to talking and, well, one thing led to another. And you thought it was okay to just carry on with someone else's wife?" I interjected, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. "We never meant to hurt you," he said, looking genuinely remorseful. "It was foolish, irresponsible. I'm truly sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix what's broken," I replied coldly. "Sorry doesn't change what I saw." He nodded, looking down at his hands. "What are you going to do?" "The right question is what are you going to do to make this right?" I demanded. My plan needed his cooperation, and though it was distasteful to negotiate with this man, it was necessary. "What do you want?" he asked, wary but resigned. "I want a confession. Written. And I want you to end this affair. Today. If you don't, the video goes public. Your reputation, your legacy, think about what this will do to it." He winced, the weight of the ultimatum settling on him. After a long pause, he nodded. "Okay. I'll do it. I'll write the confession now. And I'll talk to Mara today." "Good. Remember, I'll know if you don't." I turned to leave, pausing at the door to add, "You're not the only one who will be making amends today. But unlike you, I'm not asking for forgiveness." As I left his house, the first part of my plan completed, the feeling wasn't satisfaction but a hollow victory. The real confrontation, the one with Mara, loomed ahead. Today was just the beginning, the first unraveling of the life we had built together. The road to retribution was long, and I was just starting down its path. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the living room, I sat, waiting for Mara to return. Each minute ticked by with the slow crawl of impending confrontation. Today was the day the facade of our marriage would crumble. When I heard the jingle of her keys at the door, my heart kicked against my chest, not out of fear, but a grim readiness for the upheaval to come. She walked in, her face tired but smiling as she saw me, unaware of the storm waiting to engulf her. "Hey, you're home early," she greeted cheerfully, dropping her bag and coming over to kiss me. I stepped back, dodging her kiss, my movement a clear line drawn. "We need to talk," I said, my voice firm, leaving no room for the usual pleasantries. Her smile faltered, confusion and then concern flickering across her features. "Is everything okay? What's wrong?" "It's about us," I started, watching her closely. "Or rather, it's about you and Harold Jensen." The color drained from her face, her eyes widening as she stumbled back a step, gripping the back of the sofa for support. What are you talking about?" "Don't," I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. "I know everything, Mara. The car, the meetings, the kisses, everything." Tears welled up in her eyes, her usual composure breaking down as she realized the depth of her exposure. "I can explain," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Explain? You betrayed me, Mara. What's there to explain?" I countered, my anger flaring up, burning hot and uncontrollable. She sobbed, covering her face with her hands. It was a mistake. I was lonely, you were always working, and he was there. It was stupid, I know it was stupid. Stupid? Is that what you call it? I scoffed, my own voice raw with pain. I trusted you, and you destroyed everything for what? For loneliness. I'm so sorry, I never meant to hurt you, she pleaded, reaching out to me, but I stepped away. Sorry doesn't undo it, I said coldly. I saw you with him. How long has it been going on? A few months, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Please, can we talk about this? Can we fix it? Fix it? I laughed, a bitter sound that filled the tense air between us. You think we can just fix it? I pulled out my phone, showing her the video, the undeniable proof of her infidelity. She gasped, watching the scenes play out, her face crumpling as she saw herself with Harold. I had no idea you knew, she stammered, looking up at me with tear-streaked cheeks. That's the point, isn't it? You never thought you'd get caught, I said. But here we are. I spoke to Harold today. He's writing a confession and ending whatever this is with you. That's part of my terms. Your terms? She echoed, confusion mixing with her fear. Yes, my terms. I'm filing for divorce, Mara. And I'm going public with his confession unless you agree to my conditions for a quiet separation. She sank into the sofa, her whole body shaking as she cried. Please, don't do this. We can still fix this, can't we? I love you, I really do. Love? I questioned, my heart hardening against her pleas. No, this isn't love. Love doesn't deceive, doesn't betray. I need you to leave, Mara. Pack your things. But where will I go? She asked, her voice small, broken. That's for you to figure out, I replied, turning away to hide the crack in my own composure. I'll be at a hotel tonight. I expect you gone by tomorrow. Leaving her there, sobbing into the silence of our once shared home, felt like tearing part of myself away. But it was necessary. Retribution, I realized, was not just about making her pay, it was about reclaiming my life from the ruins she'd left behind. As I closed the door behind me, the finality of that sound marked the end of our life together and the beginning of my new path alone. The days following my confrontation with Mara blurred together, a haze of anger and sorrow. I moved into a small hotel downtown, the sterile room devoid of warmth, mirroring the chill settling in my heart. The divorce proceedings loomed ahead like a dark cloud, but the adrenaline of my revenge was intoxicating. In the days that followed, I received the confession from Harold, typed and signed. It was a simple letter, outlining the affair, complete with an admission of guilt. I had planned to send it to the local newspaper, a way to expose the betrayal for all to see. But as the day approached, a darker thought festered in my mind. Mara's final pleas echoed in my thoughts, her broken face haunting my dreams. She had been my partner, my love, and now she was a ghost of that. The thought of her living her life freely while I suffered pushed me toward a new plan, one that would hurt them both in a way they would never forget. I reached out to a friend in the media, someone who could help me craft a story that would garner attention. I wanted to paint Mara as the villain she was. With Harold's confession as my leverage, I crafted a narrative that would obliterate their reputations and leave them isolated and shamed. The day I went public, the air crackled with tension. I stood outside the newspaper office, watching the press gather. The reporters were eager, their cameras ready. I felt a thrill, a rush that surged through me as I handed over the confession and a detailed account of the affair. This wasn't just about revenge, this was about power, about taking back what they had stolen from me. As the article hit the stands, it unleashed chaos. The headline blared, "Community Pillar's Dark Secret, a Love Affair Exposed." People gasped as they recognized Harold's name. His fall from grace was swift and brutal. I watched from the sidelines as the fallout unfolded, relishing every moment. Mara, on the other hand, was left reeling. She called me in a panic, her voice trembling. "What have you done?" she cried. "You're ruining my life." "Your life? You ruined mine first," I shot back, my voice cold and steady. "I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. Please, we can fix this. We can work together, find a way to make it right," she pleaded, desperation lacing her words. "Make it right? There's no going back, Mara. You chose this path," I said, savoring the victory of my words. "You chose betrayal, and now you'll face the consequences." With every passing hour, the scandal grew. Harold's name was dragged through the mud, his medical practice crumbling under the weight of public scrutiny. I relished the headlines, the whispers, the outrage from the community. The man who had once held a position of respect was now a pariah, his reputation shattered. But then the unexpected happened. I received an anonymous tip that turned the tide of the narrative. A photo surfaced, a blurry snapshot of me entering the hotel where I'd been staying. It painted me as the villain behind the scenes, manipulating events for my gain. The story twisted. Suddenly, I was being portrayed as the bitter ex-husband who had orchestrated the downfall of a respected doctor out of spite. Mara, though still mired in her own scandal, became the victim in this new tale. "Why would you do this to me?" she demanded in a call, her voice raw with emotion. "You're just making it worse for both of us." "Worse?" I laughed darkly. "This is just the beginning." That night, I decided to take things into my own hands. I couldn't let them win, I wouldn't let them reclaim any power from this disaster. I confronted Harold one last time, a final showdown to solidify my vengeance. I tracked him down at a bar, the place echoing with laughter and conversations that felt foreign to me. When I found him, he was nursing a drink, the remnants of his once grand life clinging to him like a shroud. "What do you want?" he snapped, bitterness in his tone. "I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything," I said, leaning in close, my voice low and lethal. "You thought you could take her from me without consequence? You thought wrong. You're sick," he said, backing away, eyes darting around for support. "Maybe. But I'm not done yet." I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the photos of the chaos his betrayal had caused, sending them to local reporters with a simple note: "This isn't over." As I walked away, a wave of satisfaction washed over me, but it was short-lived. The next morning, news broke again. Mara, under immense pressure from the community, took a desperate turn. In a fit of despair, she crashed her car into a tree, her life tragically cut short. The weight of it all hit me like a freight train. I had sought revenge, and I had gotten it, but at what cost? I sat in my hotel room, staring blankly at the walls, feeling the darkness wrap around me. I had unleashed a chain of events that led to her death, a result of my desire for retribution. The thrill of victory faded, leaving only emptiness. My revenge had not just ruined their lives, it had shattered mine too. I was now alone, the bitter taste of triumph mingling with the ashes of lost love and a life I had once cherished. The betrayal that had ignited this fire had now consumed everything, leaving nothing but the hollow echo of my own cruelty. In the end, I had won, but the victory was hollow, a tragic reminder of how betrayal can twist and turn, consuming everyone in its wake, leaving nothing but destruction in its path.